Greetings, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our reflection for the 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time. Our first reading is taken from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 2 to 6. Our second reading is taken from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 7, verse 23 to 28. And our gospel reading is taken from the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 12, verse 28 to 34. The underlying teaching of our readings for today is the law of love. The law of love that is presented by Jesus in the Gospel when he responds to the question of the scribe who asks him, what is the most important law? Jesus takes this opportunity to show those around him, those following him, the spirit behind the law of God. And that is the spirit of love, which we can translate to the law of love. In this law of love, we find a summarization of the 613 Mosaic laws into only two laws: love of God and love of the neighbor. When you look at these two laws, we can understand that there is a two-sided affair that is happening in our law of love, which presents itself perhaps in a way that we can understand in the image of a coin. When you look at a coin has two sides. On one side, you find the amount of value that the coin holds. For example, 10 cents or 10 shillings. And on the flip side of the coin, we find the figure of authority. Most times it is the figurehead of one of the leading statesmen of the country. For example, a 10 shilling coin in Kenya holds the image of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Now, both sides of the coin are equally important for the value of the coin, because if one side of the coin is completely defaced, then the coin no longer has value. If the side where the value is written is defaced, we cannot know if this coin holds what value. And if the side of the coin that holds the figurehead of authority is defaced, the coin loses its credibility. Therefore, we can easily see that both sides of the coin are equally important for the value of the coin. This is how we are to understand the image of love that we are presented with in the Gospel. Love of God is one side, and love of neighbor is the other side. Both sides together are equally important for the total and complete expression of love which characterizes Christianity as a way of life. Love of God is expressed clearly in the first reading according to the precept that is presented in the book of Deuteronomy, which calls the Israelites to remember all the time their commitment to God. Love of God for us translates into total commitment to serve God. And this can show in our lives daily through our praise and worship, our life of prayer, and our life of trying to always be in connection with God. Love of neighbor, on the other hand, is the only way that we can give proper expression of our connection to God. In this case, love of neighbor is presented to us as a model on which we can show how much connected we are to God. And furthermore, this love of neighbor is modeled on love of the self. This is a bit interesting because in our modern day world, we are always reminded, or in a way, we are taught that self-love is negative because there is a misconception and a misunderstanding of the difference between self-love and selfishness. The gospel reading of today calls us to self-love as a model for proper love of the neighbor. When we embody this self-love, we are able to love our neighbors appropriately and correctly. What do we mean when we talk about self-love? Self-love means that we are able to recognize the image of God in ourselves. It means that I am able to recognize the image of God in myself, and I love this image. I respect this image. I honor this image. Therefore, I cannot engage in any form of self-harming behavior. I cannot engage in any form of behavior that disrespects or dishonors God who resides in me. When I have this understanding, then the love I have towards my neighbor, modeled on this self-love, is not a love because of utility. It is not a love because of what my neighbor can do for me, but it is simply love of the neighbor that is based on the image of God that is in my neighbor. We are therefore reminded today, my brothers and sisters, that we are called to love. First and foremost, the vocation of a Christian is a vocation to love. Let us therefore today remember that our love is always shown in the two sides, love of God and love of the neighbor. May you have a blessed Sunday.